Hi everybody, Gene here. Welcome to the Tapping Q&A podcast, where every single week we answer the most common and uncommon questions about tapping and EFT so you can get the most out of your tapping practice, eliminate self-sabotage, and take the action that you want. If you are not aware, the Tapping Q&A podcast now has a presence on Instagram, where every day or so we're posting images and inspirational quotes. And one of the things that I'm adding to the site regularly are specific tapping algorithms for particular issues. So instead of tapping in the way that we normally do, which looks organized in the body, it's much closer to thought field therapy than to EFT, where there's a specific order for a specific issue. On Instagram, just look for the handle Tapping Q&A, and that's TAPPING QANDA. If you go to Instagram.com/tappingqa, you will be able to see all of the beautiful images that we're sharing, as well as the inspiration. This is Gene Monterostelli, and welcome to the Tapping Q&A podcast, recorded live to tape from Williamsburg in Brooklyn. This is episode 390, originally aired September 25th, 2019. Hi everyone, I hope this finds you well wherever you are and whatever time of day you get a chance to listen to it. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Today we're going to spend some time talking about and tapping for being our authentic self, and how sometimes it is not something that feels super comfortable and can even feel dangerous. And we know that when we are not our authentic self, we don't take the action we want, we don't take the action we're called to, and we can feel like we're missing out on the opportunities of being our true self. Before we jump into that, I just want to send a big shout out and thank you to everyone who is a supporter of the Tapping Q&A podcast. You can find a new bonus podcast in the supporters only feed. If you have any questions about that or you're not seeing that audio, supporters, you can drop me a note, Gene, Gene, at tappingqa.com. If you'd like to receive these bonus audios every single month, and get access to old bonus audios, because when you become a supporter, you get access to the entire catalog. All you need to do is go to tappingqa.com/support. You will help to continue to make the podcast available free of charge to people all over the world, and you'll get the good feeling that comes along with that, as well as these amazing bonuses. tappingqa.com/support. For many of the clients I work with, they grew up in a situation where, because of their worldview and their disposition, they moved to a slightly different beat than the rest of the people around them. And that could be inside of their family, it could be inside of their school, it could be inside of their community. But they were always in a circumstance where, if they shared what they thought or acted in a way that felt natural to them, they knew immediately they would be drawing attention because it was counter to those around them. And oftentimes, people don't do well with different. And when they're not doing well with different, they can respond externally in a really judgmental way. And I say respond externally in a judgmental way because sometimes when someone responds judgmental, they're not actually judging us and our action. They are noticing their own discomfort of what is going on, and they don't like that, so they're judging the situation. And since the action we are taking is creating the discomfort inside of them, they judge us. And if this happens enough times, it's very easy to end up in a circumstance where it no longer feels safe to be our true, authentic self. And the moment you have this story that says, if I am myself, it is dangerous, then we're going to start bringing that to every single place we go, into our relationships, into the work that we do, into the places we invest our time, even into how we see ourselves. And that can create a really difficult conflict internally. And when we're in a circumstance where we want to start putting ourselves out there more, there's a fear on the opposite end of the spectrum of, if I give myself permission to be authentic, then I'm going to be too authentic and I'm going to share way too much. And so I think it's really important to recognize that being our authentic selves does not mean that we are sharing every thought that we have, every disposition we have in every moment, in every relationship, every moment we are awake throughout the day. Instead, what it means is we have the opportunity to choose how we're going to show up in the world, and we get to choose that without fear of judgment. And we're going to be judged and evaluated. I mean, you judge and evaluate all the time. You look down at your computer today, or you look down at your smartphone and you saw the title of this podcast and you made a judgment about whether or not this was something you wanted to listen to today. And that judgment is based on the topic and based on past episodes and what you think of me and all of those sorts of things. That's a judgment. But there's a difference between making a judgment and a value judgment. And so when we make choices in the world, people are going to judge whether or not they would make those choices. And so there is this middle ground of where we are authentically ourselves. We're consciously and deliberately choosing who we want to share with, how much we want to share, and in what context, and doing it in a way where we're authentic and we're doing it safe. And so that is what today's tap along is all about. Is it some very simple tapping to put yourself in a position where you can comfortably be your authentic self and comfortably know that you are safe and not being reckless. So tap on the side of the hand, take a nice big deep breath. And just move from tapping point to tapping point, repeating after me. I recognize the fact there is a part of me that wants to show up authentically. That wants to show up purely as myself. Being able to share my truth. Being able to share that truth authentically. I value authenticity. I want to be an authentic person. At the exact same time, there is a part of me that is afraid. It is worried that if I show my authentic self, I'm going to be judged. If I show my authentic self, I'm going to be in danger. If I share my authentic self, I'm going to be in harm's way. The reason this fear shows up is it feels as if authenticity is an all or nothing proposition. That is not how authenticity works. Showing up authentically does not mean I'm exposing all of myself. Showing up authentically does not mean I'm exposing myself to everyone. Showing up authentically does not mean I am exactly the same all of the time. I get to choose which parts of my life I share. I get to choose who I want to share this with. I get to choose when I am doing the sharing. I am always allowed to change my mind about how much I am sharing. Authenticity is not an all or nothing proposition. I can be honestly myself without sharing every part of me. It is good for me to consciously choose who I am sharing with. It is good for me to consciously choose how much I am sharing. I give myself permission to know that I can also change my mind. Just because I shared before doesn't mean I have to share now. Just because I shared before doesn't mean I have to share again. It is safe for me to be my authentic self. Because it does not mean I am sharing everything. Being authentic does not mean that I am now reckless. Being authentic does not mean that I am now careless. Being authentic does not mean I am being thoughtless. I can be deliberately authentic. Choosing how much I want to share in any given situation. And because it's my choice, I can do it safely. Because it's my choice, I am in control. I give myself permission to be authentically me in the way that makes most sense in any given moment. Nice big deep breath. I have a feeling that thinking about authenticity in this way is a new disposition for you, because oftentimes we think of our authentic self as something that we are or we aren't. And there are degrees to all things, and there are degrees to how we show up in every single relationship. And as we change and as our relationships change over time, we get to choose how much of it we share. And as we did in the tapping, evolution doesn't mean that it's always growing. That there can be circumstances where we decide to contract how much we are sharing. And that doesn't mean we're being unauthentic. It simply means we're choosing what is appropriate, what is safe, and what is deliberate for us to share, so that we can have the relationships in the context that we want. If you know someone in your life who could use something like this, who you'd like to share this idea of how we can be authentic in the world, please be our ambassador, pass it along. Don't spam your inbox, don't send it to everybody in the world. But if you know a couple of people, please pass it along. You know, this year, as I've said over and over again, our goal is to get 9 new people tapping a day as a community. If we do that, we'll add 3,000 new tappers this calendar year. And the world will be a better place if we have 3,000 people showing up in a more authentic way. If you haven't done so already, you can subscribe to the podcast. And in podcasting parlance, when we say subscribe, it does not mean you are paying for it. Podcast subscriptions are free. I know that there are audio platforms that now charge, but this particular podcast is always one that you can access for free. You can find it in Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Pandora, everywhere you listen to audio. You can find this podcast. If you have a question or a comment, please let me know. Gene, Gene, at tappingqa.com. Or if you happen to be one of those people who have downloaded our free app, that's the Tapping Q&A app. Just hit the contact button inside of the app. There inside of the app, you will be able to send me a voice message or send me an email. And for those of you that don't know, the app has every single audio from the website, as well as for things like this, a printed out tapping script. So as you're navigating through your day, if you don't want to listen to the audio, you can just click on the text tab, TEXT tab inside of the app, and be able to just scroll through these scripts and just tap along to it. If you go to the website, go to tappingpodcast.com and click on the link for this particular episode. Down at the bottom near the player, you'll see a link where you can download a printable script in PDF form, or you can cut and paste in a way that makes the most sense for you. For the Tapping Q&A podcast, this is Gene Montrestelli. I hope you have a great day, and I will talk to you real soon. Bye-bye. The Tapping Q&A podcast is copyright Gene Montrestelli Tapping Q&A 2016. All views expressed by guests are those of the guests and not necessarily of Gene Montrestelli or Tapping Q&A.